Every man believes he controls his wealth, yet it is wealth that truly controls him. Since the dawn of power, men have worshipped money as if it were a god, believing it can buy respect, loyalty, even love. But the truth is darker. Money does not make men free, it makes them obedient. You see, the poor man works for it, the rich man fears losing it, and both remain chained to the same illusion. Understand this. The desire for money is not a hunger for coins. It is a hunger for power, for validation, for the illusion of control. Yet the man who truly understands power uses money as a weapon, not as a master. In this lesson, I will show you why men become addicted to wealth, and how the wise turn that addiction into domination. Money is not merely a tool of exchange. It is a mirror reflecting man's deepest hunger for control. From the moment a man learns that wealth commands attention, he begins to confuse money with power. He does not desire the gold itself, but the submission it brings. Money gives him the ability to bend others to his will, to be heard where he was once ignored, to be respected where he was once invisible. This illusion of dominance intoxicates him more than any wine, for power is the ultimate drug, and money is its most convenient disguise. In every society, the wealthy are treated as if they possess greater wisdom, strength, and virtue. The poor man, seeing this illusion, begins his lifelong chase. He convinces himself that if he gains wealth, he will gain the same authority and peace. Yet, he misunderstands the nature of power. True power does not lie in the coins he gathers, but in the control they represent. When a man begins to see money as the only path to influence, he becomes a slave to it, mistaking the means for the end. The desire for money grows from fear. A man without wealth fears hunger, insignificance, and humiliation. Money promises safety from all three. It tells him, if you have enough, no one can touch you. And so he works, schemes, and sacrifices for this invisible shield. But once he obtains it, the fear does not disappear. It multiplies. He begins to fear losing what he has built, to fear those who envy him, and to fear returning to the weakness he once escaped. The illusion of power becomes his prison, and the keys are made of gold. The cruel truth is that wealth amplifies what a man already is. The coward becomes more fearful, the arrogant more proud, the greedy more insatiable. Money does not purify, it exposes. A man believes he controls his fortune, yet his decisions, his friendships, and even his morality begin to orbit around it. He no longer asks what is right, only what is profitable. His self-worth becomes measured not by his character, but by his possessions, and the illusion of power turns into a slow decay of the soul. Those who understand the true nature of control know that money is only one form of leverage among many. The weak man depends on gold. The strong man depends on influence, intellect, and strategy. The weak buy loyalty with coins, while the wise command it with presence and respect. Money can make a man appear powerful, but appearance is fragile. A single loss, a market crash, a betrayal, and his empire crumbles. What remains afterward is the hollow truth that his authority never came from within. The addiction begins when a man's identity fuses with his wealth. He starts believing that without it, he is nothing. He works not out of ambition, but out of fear. His victories no longer bring satisfaction, only a temporary relief before the next craving begins. He surrounds himself with others who chase the same illusion, mistaking greed for greatness. Together they build a world where value is determined not by wisdom or honor, but by numbers in an account. And in such a world, even kings live like beggars, constantly asking money for permission to feel powerful. The illusion of power that money offers is perhaps the most dangerous deception of all. It feeds the ego while starving the spirit. It convinces men that they are in control while quietly enslaving them to endless desire. And so, generation after generation, men repeat the same mistake, chasing not the mastery of life, but the mastery of others through wealth. They worship a false god made of paper and metal, never realizing that true power has never needed a price. Desire is the fire that drives every man, yet when it burns without limit, it consumes him. The pursuit of money begins as a simple need: to eat, to shelter, to survive. But once those needs are met, something darker awakens within him. The hunger that once had purpose becomes greed, and greed knows no boundaries. A man tells himself he wants comfort, then status, then power, until he can no longer remember where necessity ended and obsession began. It is not money he chases now, but the thrill of possessing more than others. The chase becomes the addiction, and every victory only deepens his dependence on the next. The tragedy is that men believe satisfaction lies just beyond their reach. When they earn a little, they convince themselves that twice as much will bring peace. When they reach that, the measure doubles again. No sum ever feels enough because desire grows faster than wealth, like a man drinking salt water to quench his thirst. The more he consumes, the thirstier he becomes. This is the cruel nature of craving. It promises satisfaction while feeding emptiness. Society feeds this disease. From every corner, the world praises the man who climbs, who earns, who never stops. He is admired not for his peace of mind, but for his relentless pursuit. To stop striving is to be labeled weak, and so men keep running, not toward happiness, but away from insignificance. They measure their worth by comparing their gold to that of others, forgetting that envy is a silent poison that devours joy from within. When desire becomes competition, man's life becomes a race without a finish line. What begins as ambition transforms into dependency. The man who once controlled his goals is now controlled by them. He loses the ability to rest because every pause feels like loss. His mind becomes a battlefield of numbers, profits, and fears. He sacrifices time, relationships, and even morality for the illusion that more will finally be enough. But enough never arrives. The finish line keeps moving, and the prize keeps shrinking. In this endless chase, he forgets to live. Machiavelli understood that desire, once ungoverned, becomes a tool of manipulation. Those who control a man's wants control his will. The merchants, rulers, and systems of power feed on this truth. They convince him that success means constant accumulation, that happiness can be purchased, that the next possession will fill the void. And so, men work themselves to exhaustion, unaware that the very system they serve was designed to keep them chasing. Desire becomes the leash that tames even the strongest spirit. A wise man observes this cycle with cold detachment. He knows that every new luxury quickly loses its flavor, every triumph fades into habit, and every dream achieved gives birth to another. He understands that the endless pursuit of wealth is not progress but entrapment disguised as ambition. While the common man chases more, the wise man studies his desires and masters them. He knows that the true measure of power is not how much one gains, but how little one needs. Yet few ever reach that understanding. Most spend their lives mistaking movement for growth. They keep filling their hands but emptying their hearts. They fear stillness because in silence they would have to face themselves, and they might discover that what they were truly chasing was not money, but meaning. But meaning cannot be bought. It must be understood. And until a man sees through the mirage of endless desire, he will remain a slave to it, forever running in circles, believing he is advancing, while in truth, he is only deepening his chains. When a man begins to chase money, he slowly forgets the original value of things. Virtue, loyalty, and integrity lose their meaning, replaced by numbers and possessions. The moment wealth becomes the measure of worth, corruption begins to bloom. People stop asking who is honorable and start asking who is profitable. The language of morality is replaced by the language of transaction. The honest man is mocked for his simplicity, while the cunning one is celebrated for his success. This is how money reshapes society, not by what it buys, but by what it makes men forget. Men once sought admiration through character, courage, and wisdom. Now they seek it through material display. A man who owns nothing but honor is invisible. A man who owns everything but character is envied. When money becomes the highest symbol of achievement, the soul of a nation rots quietly beneath the glitter. Every decision, every relationship, even love itself, becomes a form of trade. People no longer ask, is he good? But rather, is he rich? And when wealth replaces virtue, corruption becomes the new morality. The dangerous part is how natural this shift feels. A man may begin his journey with noble intentions, to provide for his family, to build a better life. But slowly, imperceptibly, he starts judging others through the same lens society uses on him. He begins to respect the wealthy, not for their wisdom, but for their status. He begins to see poverty as failure, not misfortune. His world divides into two kinds of people, those who have and those who do not. And in this illusion, the true worth of a man, his discipline, his honor, his loyalty, becomes worthless if it does not produce profit. Money has the power to corrupt even the definition of success. Once, success meant mastery of the self, the ability to remain steady amidst chaos. Now, success is measured by visible abundance, the house, the car, the numbers that can be shown and compared. This obsession with appearance forces men to live in constant performance. They smile when they are miserable, boast when they are empty, and compete when there is nothing worth winning. The mask of wealth becomes heavier than the life itself, yet they wear it proudly, afraid that without it, they would be seen for what they truly are, ordinary. The irony is that money does not create strength, it exposes weakness. When a man believes his power lies in wealth, he becomes easy to control. Take away his riches, and his confidence collapses. Threaten his income, and his loyalty shifts instantly. The one who commands his money commands his will. This is why those who truly seek power never worship wealth. They use it. They understand that real influence comes not from the coin, but from the ability to make others chase it. The powerful man lets others exhaust themselves in pursuit while he remains calm, observing, directing, profiting from their blindness. Money corrupts not only individuals but entire systems. It changes the definition of justice, shapes laws, and determines who deserves to be heard. The rich buy truth, the poor rent silence. As greed grows, fairness fades, and society begins to rot from the inside. Quietly, elegantly, and without resistance. It is not tyranny that enslaves men. It is desire disguised as freedom. They believe they are chasing success when, in truth, they are merely obeying the invisible command of gold. In the end, the corruption money creates is not loud or violent. It is slow and graceful. It enters through ambition, hides behind comfort, and disguises itself as progress. By the time a man realizes that he has lost his values, it is too late. The world he helped build no longer rewards virtue, only victory. And in such a world, the price of wealth is the death of meaning. The man who gathers wealth believes he is building his freedom, yet with every coin he collects, he tightens his own chains. At first, money seems to open the world before him. It allows him to choose, to command, to escape the limitations that others endure. But as his fortune grows, so too does the shadow that follows him. The fear of losing what he has gained. What once brought him comfort now becomes the source of his anxiety. The rich man may sleep on silk, but he does not sleep peacefully. He guards his comfort with the vigilance of a prisoner guarding his cell, mistaking fear for security. The illusion of freedom through wealth is the greatest deception of all. A poor man has little to lose, and so his mind is light. He may suffer, but his suffering has no disguise. He knows it and accepts it. The rich man, however, lives in silent dread. Every friendship becomes a potential betrayal, every partner a threat, every smile a mask hiding envy or deceit. He locks his doors, hides his wealth, and surrounds himself with guards, not to protect his life, but to protect his possessions. The cost of abundance is constant suspicion. What he owns begins to own him. Fear breeds dependence. The man who believes he cannot live without his wealth becomes a slave to his own fortune. He shapes every decision, not by principle but by preservation. He avoids risk, not out of caution but out of terror. The same money that once promised him power now dictates his every move. He no longer rules his wealth, it rules him. A man who must constantly defend what he owns cannot be free, no matter how vast his empire. Machiavelli understood that men driven by fear are the easiest to manipulate. The wealthy man clings to what he has, and this weakness makes him predictable. Threaten his assets, and he will compromise his values. Promise him safety, and he will obey without question. His wealth becomes a leash tied around his ambition, and those who understand this weakness can lead him wherever they please. The illusion of freedom turns him into a puppet, controlled not by chains, but by the weight of his own desires. The tragedy lies in the quiet suffering of the rich. Outwardly they appear powerful and untouchable, but inwardly they are tormented by endless worry. Every possession demands attention, every investment demands control, every luxury demands protection. Their lives become a web of obligations disguised as privilege. They cannot rest because rest invites reflection, and reflection reveals the emptiness of their pursuit. The poor envy them, unaware that behind their walls of gold live men who envy the peace of those with nothing to lose. Wealth creates isolation. A man of great means can never truly know who loves him or who serves him for advantage. Every gesture of kindness becomes suspect. Every connection feels transactional. Genuine affection is replaced by politeness, honesty, by flattery. Surrounded by people, he feels alone. His fortune separates him not only from others, but from his own humanity. He begins to measure everything through value and ownership, losing the ability to feel without calculating. True freedom cannot coexist with fear. The man who needs little fears little. The man who owns too much becomes the guardian of his own prison. The wise have always known this, that power does not come from wealth, but from detachment. To master money, one must be willing to lose it without despair. The moment a man's peace depends on his possessions, his spirit becomes hostage to the things he calls his own. What he thought would make him untouchable instead makes him fragile. He builds his castle higher, not to enjoy the view, but to hide from the fear that grows in its shadow. Men rarely chase money for survival alone. Most chase it for the image it projects to others. In a world that worships appearances, wealth has become a costume that disguises weakness as strength. People no longer seek to live well. They seek to look powerful. They crave admiration, not peace. This is the invisible force that drives society, the hunger to be seen as important, to be envied, to be recognized. It is not comfort that drives the modern man, but performance. His wealth is not a tool of life. It is a stage on which he acts the role of superiority. From the moment a man steps into the world, he is judged by what he displays. The car he drives, the clothes he wears, the house he owns, each becomes a symbol that defines his worth before he even speaks. Society has taught him that visibility is value. To appear successful is more rewarding than to be content. Even the poor learn to mimic the signs of wealth, dressing like kings while living like servants. Everyone is trapped in the same theater, playing roles designed to impress an audience that does not care. This obsession with appearance corrupts not only individuals, but the entire social order. When reputation becomes currency, men stop building real strength. They invest not in wisdom or skill, but in the illusion of success. The merchant exaggerates his profits. The ruler displays generosity he cannot afford, and the worker buys luxuries on borrowed credit. Each man fears being seen as less than another. In this way, vanity becomes a form of slavery. Quiet, elegant, and inescapable, men destroy themselves trying to look powerful to others who are doing the same. The irony is that power based on appearance is the weakest form of power. It depends entirely on belief. The moment people stop admiring, it collapses. The man who builds his identity on symbols of wealth must constantly feed that image, because his confidence exists only in the eyes of others. He cannot afford to be seen as ordinary, for that would expose the emptiness beneath his display. This constant need for validation chains him more tightly than poverty ever could. Machiavelli would call this the politics of perception. He understood that men are ruled not by truth, but by what they see. The clever use this to their advantage. They build the illusion of power long before they possess it. They know that most people mistake the appearance of wealth for authority. Thus, those who look strong often gain followers before they gain substance. But the tragedy of the common man is that he chases the illusion without understanding the game. He becomes the audience in someone else's theater, applauding while his own life withers behind the curtain. In this age of symbols, even morality is measured by wealth. A rich man's arrogance is called confidence, while a poor man's pride is labeled foolishness. Generosity from the wealthy is celebrated, even when it is a performance meant to polish their image. Every gesture becomes spectacle, every act a strategy for admiration. The world no longer rewards depth, it rewards display, and men, in their blindness, sacrifice authenticity for approval. The wise see through this illusion. They understand that being seen is not the same as being powerful. True strength is silent, and true wealth is invisible. The man who requires no witness to his worth is the one who cannot be manipulated by appearances. But few reach that understanding because society punishes invisibility. The world would rather respect a fool in silk than a sage in rags. And so, men continue to polish their masks, terrified of showing the face beneath. They chase the illusion of admiration until they forget what genuine respect feels like. In the end, they may appear powerful to the world, yet remain powerless within themselves, prisoners of the very image they created. The difference between the wise and the foolish man lies not in what they possess, but in how they relate to what they desire. The fool allows money to dictate his worth, his choices, and even his emotions. He lives at the mercy of gain and loss, celebrating when wealth grows and despairing when it fades. The wise, however, stands apart from this chaos. He sees money for what it truly is, a tool, not a master. He understands that gold holds no power over him unless he gives it permission to rule. Where the common man serves his desires, the wise man commands them, and through that mastery, he finds the freedom others spend their lives chasing. To control desire is to control the direction of one's life. The average man believes his wants are natural, that to crave more is proof of ambition. But Machiavelli knew that ungoverned desire is the perfect weapon against the weak. Those who cannot master their cravings are easily led. They can be tempted, bought, and controlled. The wise man, however, treats his desires like soldiers, disciplined, useful, and loyal to his command. He chooses when to act, when to wait, and when to walk away. His strength comes from restraint, not abundance. Money, to him, is not an object of worship, but a servant of purpose. He uses it to build influence, to buy time, to shape the world in accordance with his vision. When others chase wealth for status, he uses wealth to secure independence. He does not need to display his success because his power does not come from display. The more detached he is from the need to prove, the more others feel his authority. People sense in him a calm that cannot be purchased, and it unsettles them. For nothing intimidates the world more than a man who cannot be tempted. The fool, on the other hand, confuses possession with power. He spends his life collecting things, believing they make him significant. His joy is loud, but fragile. The smallest loss destroys his peace because his identity is tied to his wealth. He serves money with the devotion of a worshiper and obeys its every command. When fortune favors him, he feels invincible. When it abandons him, he feels worthless. His emotions rise and fall with the market, and his entire existence becomes dependent on something he can never fully control. The wise man understands that true power lies in stability. He allows no external thing, not gold, not status, not the approval of others, to disturb his inner balance. He knows that the man who cannot be shaken is the one others eventually follow. Money to him is like a sword, dangerous in untrained hands, yet unstoppable in those of a master. He learns to wield it strategically, not to impress, but to influence, not to hoard, but to command outcomes. His wealth multiplies because it serves a purpose greater than itself. This detachment does not mean rejection of money, but mastery over it. The wise man understands value and uses it wisely, but he remains untouched by greed. He can lose everything and still walk with the same calm because his power comes from within, not from what surrounds him. While the fool's wealth controls him through fear, the wise man's discipline makes him unbreakable. His riches exist both in possession and in perception. He owns his mind, and therefore nothing can own him. In the end, the mastery of desire is the highest form of power. To remain unmoved in a world obsessed with gain is to possess something rarer than gold, command over oneself. The wise man may walk among the greedy and ambitious, but he stands above them in silence, understanding what they never will, that money is not the source of power, but the test of it. In the end, money is neither good nor evil. It is a mirror that reveals the truth of the man who holds it. Some men use it to rise, others let it rule them. The weak become servants of their greed, mistaking wealth for strength. The wise see through the illusion. They use money as a weapon, not as a chain. Remember this: power does not belong to the one who has the most, but to the one who needs the least. The man who can walk away from wealth without losing himself has already conquered it. Control your desires, or they will control you. Rule your gold, or it will rule your soul. For in the kingdom of power, money is the crown, but mastery over it is the throne.